What do you want?
What do you want? No identification.
No, la voy a abrir.
Hey, you can't do that.
It was a quiet Saturday morning in San Bernardino, California. The streets were just beginning to wake up. Families were getting ready for their weekend routines, some heading out for errands, some still sipping coffee inside their homes. But in one neighborhood near Acacia Avenue and Baseline Street, the calm was suddenly shattered. What was supposed to be a routine immigration enforcement operation quickly spiraled into something that looked more like a crime scene than an arrest. According to the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, federal officers working under Customs and Border Protection, CBP, were targeting a suspect vehicle. But in a matter of minutes, things escalated. Officials claim that the driver of that vehicle suddenly swerved toward the officers, striking at least two of them. In the split-second chaos, one federal agent drew his gun and opened fire. And that's where the story splits in two. The family's story inside the vehicle, there wasn't just a driver. There was a family who now say they were innocent victims caught in the middle of a raid gone wrong. In their words, the agents were masked and aggressive. They say the windows of their truck were smashed, and then before they could even understand what was happening, 3 shots rang out. One witness later told reporters, "We were sitting in the truck as suddenly these masked men appeared, they smashed the windows and then they fired at us." To the family, this wasn't law enforcement. It felt like an ambush. DHS responds, but DHS tells a very different story. They insist this was not random and it wasn't reckless. They maintain that the agents were acting in self-defense because the suspect's vehicle had turned into a weapon. DHS confirms that 2 federal officers were injured after being struck by the car, and that firing their weapons was the only way to protect themselves. By the time local San Bernardino police arrived, the street was a mess. Shattered glass lay scattered across the road. The truck's windows were blown out. Bullet holes marked the vehicle. Neighbors stood outside their homes, stunned by what they were seeing. Police classified the incident as an officer-involved shooting. But the bigger questions hung heavy in the air. Was this truly an act of self-defense? Or was it an overreaction in a neighborhood that should have been safe? The media jumped on the case quickly. ABC7 confirmed that shots were indeed fired by a federal agent during an immigration operation. NBC Los Angeles highlighted the family's claims that they were attacked without cause. The Los Angeles Times dug deeper, framing the event as part of a larger story. How immigration operations are colliding with local communities in unexpected and violent ways. But one thing is clear. What happened in San Bernardino isn't just a police report. It's a mystery, a clash of narratives, a single event with 2 completely different versions of the truth. And until investigators uncover more, the city is left with fear, anger, and uncertainty. For the people living there, it's no longer just about what happened. It's about what it means for them, for immigration enforcement, and for how far the system is willing to go in the name of the law. The San Bernardino shooting didn't happen in isolation. It's part of a much bigger story, one that stretches across the country. Every few months, headlines surface. Federal agents fire shots. Immigration raids turn violent. Families claim they were caught in the crossfire. And each time, the same question rises. Why does this keep happening? To understand that, you have to look at the nature of immigration enforcement itself. These operations are high risk by design. Agents often go into neighborhoods before dawn, targeting homes or vehicles they believe are hiding undocumented immigrants. The suspects are usually scared, sometimes desperate, and in many cases, completely unprepared for the sudden knock or crash at their door. Federal agents, on the other hand, are trained to expect danger. They arrive wearing body armor, often carrying weapons, and in their minds, any move from a suspect could be a potential threat. This clash of perspectives, fear versus suspicion, creates a powder keg. One wrong move and everything explodes. The shadow of past cases, San Bernardino, isn't the first time we've seen this. In Colorado just weeks earlier, an immigration operation ended with shots fired at a vehicle that allegedly tried to run over agents. In Camarillo, California, protesters opened fire at agents during a farm raid, leaving officers diving for cover. Each time, the official explanation is self-defense. Each time, families and communities push back, saying they were treated like criminals instead of citizens. The root of the problem lies in trust, or rather, the lack of it. Many immigrant families already live in fear of being separated or deported. When federal agents arrive in unmarked vehicles, sometimes masked, it doesn't feel like law enforcement. It feels like a threat. On the other side, agents argue that they don't have the luxury of waiting to see what someone will do. If a car swerves toward them, they act. If a suspect runs, they chase. They're trained to neutralize risks quickly, because hesitation could mean injury or worse. But that mindset often clashes with the messy reality of families, children, and neighborhoods caught in the middle. When an operation turns violent, the community pays the price. Neighbors lose their sense of safety. Children who witness shattered windows and gunfire carry that trauma, and public trust in federal agencies sinks even lower. For cities like San Bernardino, already struggling with poverty, crime, and strained police-community relations, an event like this doesn't just make the news. It cuts deep, reinforcing the feeling that ordinary people are expendable in the eyes of the system. So why does this keep happening? Because the system itself is built for conflict. Immigration enforcement is one of the few areas of law where civil operations are often treated like criminal takedowns. Agents go in expecting resistance. Families react with fear. And when fear collides with suspicion, the result is almost always the same: chaos, violence, and another headline that divides the nation even further. In San Bernardino, the investigation may eventually tell us who was right and who was wrong. But the truth is, this case is just another reflection of a deeper problem, a system where enforcement often overshadows humanity. The San Bernardino case leaves us with haunting images: shattered windows, gunfire in a family neighborhood, and two conflicting stories about what really happened. But beyond the headlines, it raises a question most people don't want to think about. What would you do if this happened to you? Immigration operations are often unpredictable. They don't announce themselves like routine police visits. Agents may arrive in unmarked cars, wearing masks, armed, and moving quickly. In the heat of the moment, it's easy for panic to take over. But experts say your actions in those first few seconds could mean the difference between escalation and survival. Rule 1: do not resist whether you believe the agents are right or wrong. The most critical advice is this: do not resist. Sudden movements, attempts to drive away, or physical struggle can all be seen as threats. In San Bernardino, DHS claims the vehicle itself was used as a weapon. That detail alone triggered gunfire. Even if the family insists otherwise, it shows how quickly normal actions can be interpreted as dangerous. Rule 2: make yourself visible if you're inside a car. Keep your hands on the wheel where they can be seen. If you're at home, step into a visible area slowly with your hands empty. Confusion fuels fear, and fear leads to rash decisions. Rule 3: document, but carefully if possible. Record on a phone or ask someone nearby to document what's happening. Many families in past raids have found that their only defense later was video evidence. But be cautious. Pulling out a phone suddenly can be mistaken for something else. Move slowly, announce what you're doing, and let it be clear. Rule 4: know your rights even in the chaos. Your rights don't disappear. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to ask for a lawyer. You don't have to sign documents on the spot. And unless agents present a warrant signed by a judge, you're not required to let them into your home. But, and this is critical, asserting your rights must be done calmly and without aggression. The psychological aftermath for families who experience these raids, the trauma doesn't end when the agents leave. Children often carry fear for years. Adults may develop anxiety, nightmares, or distrust of all authority. In San Bernardino, the family whose truck was shot at now has to live with those echoes forever. The sound of breaking glass, the shock of gunfire, the fear of not knowing what comes next. Why this matters beyond one city, the lessons of San Bernardino are not just for that neighborhood. They highlight a national dilemma. How do we balance law enforcement with human dignity? How do we prevent immigration operations from turning into violent confrontations? The truth is, until there is reform, communities will continue to face this fear. And unless both sides, federal agents and families, learn to de-escalate, more lives will be shattered by moments like this. The San Bernardino shooting is still under investigation. We may never know with certainty whether it was justified or reckless. But one thing is undeniable. Families, children, and neighborhoods were left scarred by a situation that never should have gone that far. And that's the real tragedy of cases like this. Not just the shots fired, not just the broken glass, but the reality that ordinary people, caught between fear and authority, are the ones who always pay the price.